Hey, Justin here with Pavement Designs. Today we're going to talk about moisture and vapor barriers and how they're important. What is a vapor barrier? We've got a couple of different kinds of vapor barriers that we use. We use one that soaks in, that's a penetrating vapor barrier, and then a topical. The penetrating vapor barrier is one that dives down deep into the concrete and creates a barrier within the concrete to keep any moisture from coming up through and possibly causing a bubble or delamination of the coating or surface that we put down for you. The other one is a topical vapor barrier, and these tend to hold back a little bit more. They're an epoxy, a water-based epoxy system, so no odor, no VOCs. They hold back a lot of vapor transmission and osmotic pressure. Going into that, what is vapor transmission and osmotic pressure? So vapor transmission is kind of like if you're walking into your garage on a humid day, when you have water sitting on the floor. That is more of your vapor transmission, just the moisture coming up through the concrete. Since concrete is a sponge, it's very porous, so it allows that moisture and air to evacuate and escape. What osmotic pressure is, that would be like if you had a pipe underneath your floor and it burst and that water is pushing up like a garden hose. So we have different types of barriers that we put down to prevent any one of these problems from creating an issue with the coating that we put down. What happens when this moisture, this water comes up through the concrete? Well, when I'm talking about a delamination or a, let's just say it causes a bubble. We just got done redoing a floor for some friends of ours where we did have some moisture coming up through and pushing the coating up. Sometimes what happens is if you don't have that moisture barrier, the coating will never bond. So it'll come up like sheets of plastic off of the floor. Other times the coating will bond and it'll come up later, but you'll get little bubbles all over the floor. Most of the time they'll be smaller, about the size of a pencil head, but they'll be congregated into an area. So it's unsightly, and eventually what's going to happen is those bubbles are going to break and the coating is just going to start peeling back. We've got some bubbles in the floor, and what this is caused from moisture. We've had a really rainy season here, and we had moisture coming up from underneath the concrete causing these bubbles. Now they're not all over the place, they're just in sporadic spots. However, it is a problem and it is a concern. Other times you'll get spots that are as big as marbles or oranges. We typically haven't seen that, but with those you can go to pop them and you'll have water actually coming out of those. And that can be a real big issue if you don't have a proper vapor barrier down. It can cause that nice beautiful floor of yours to start bubbling, peeling, just it can cause a lot of issues. So here in the bathroom you can see these bubbles. Right now they're pretty soft, we can push them down, the water is dissipated, you can see it kind of move. When we had the moisture issue that caused these bubbles, you were able to pop this and have water squirt out of it. That's how much pressure we had behind this floor at that time when these bubbles were caused. So this is what's underneath one of those bubbles. You can see the salts. So when the water comes up, it brings the salts from the concrete up, and when the water dries and goes away, it leaves by this residue, and that's the salts in the concrete that are left behind from the moisture. So the vapor barrier is going to block those salts and that moisture from coming up and causing these bubbles again. What do we do to help prevent this? A lot of it is we'll go into when we're initially talking with you about your floor, your space. We'll ask you some key questions to really dive in and get some history of your floor, of your space, how you're using it. Do you have any concerns of smell, mold, moisture, anything like that? Have you had any issues of water in the past? Typically, if we do have an issue where there has been water in the basement that has come up through the floor, we'll come in and do proper testing of your slab to make sure that we get the right product that goes down so we don't have any of these issues in the future. If you have any questions, be glad to answer back whatever you've got. Be sure to subscribe, follow us for more tips, tricks, and information.